Welcome to the Expert's Journey podcast, where we're all about creating your path to impact. Join your hosts, Dixie Mary Carlton from Indie Expert Publishing and Mr. Web Marketing Brad Houck, as we look at how you can grow your business and influence by leveraging your knowledge for profit. Welcome to the Expert's Journey podcast. Today we're going to be looking at lead magnets and ebooks for authors and speakers and experts. And it's a great topic. There's so much to talk about because obviously we need to lead people into buying from us. We can't just expect them to find us cold and then just throw money our way. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start with lead magnets and ebooks. And welcome, Dixie.
Hey, Brad. I'm rearing to go.
Hey, how are you going? Oh, yes. I mean, last week's episode, obviously, we alluded to this and we said we really should talk about this, but you know, we're finally here. So it's probably time to stop dragging it and let people have a listen to a few of the ideas we got. So from your perspective, what's a lead magnet and why should every expert have one?
My perspective, a lead is simply something that does exactly what it says. It magnetizes people to your product, to your services, and helps them to understand the expertise that you have, or the value that you're proposing, and gives them an opportunity to engage further.
Okay. Yeah, look, I see it very similarly. It's just an entry point. It's something that you can give people or sell people at a low cost that gets people into your funnel, into your world, and gives them a taste of knowledge and how you might be able to change their life. I think that's the key thing here is what you're doing is you're showing them that you can make a difference to their business or their life.
Yes. However, I want to say right up front, there is an awful lot of this is far too simple and far too good to be true type stuff going on with the lead magnet industry.
Yes, there's a lot of fluff floating around and a lot of, really great claims that no one ever tests.
Yes.
You can make $1 million next week. Yeah, if you sell your house.
Yeah.
But it's not really going to happen in real life. And we have to accept that 90% of marketing that you will see online is faked to a certain degree. Either it's exaggerated or it's pulled apart and it's not the truth of the full situation. And it applies in one situation probably. And that was that person's situation when it happened.
Yes.
So yes, it can be very annoying.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest issue is that most people assume they can just create something and give it away. And they say, this is my sales funnel. And here's the thing, it's the top of my sales funnel. But if they don't actually put some thought into how it's going to work, how the recipient is going to engage in that product, and then work it all the way through, then it becomes something that is having a great Ferrari sitting in your driveway. That is like a Mini Cooper motor.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes someone's got what would you say, a high-speed train sitting in their driveway that no one else can drive. So they put all this information into a book or something, and it's really quite useless. And it doesn't drive people down the funnels because it's such high-level information. It really doesn't help you. So what are the key difference between lead magnets, ebooks, and full-scale books in terms of their purpose and use, do you think?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
I wrote it here for me to ask.
Okay, so what I started doing a few months ago was really thinking hard about the concept of ebooks and how they're being used often as giveaways for authors, etc., and speakers to confirm what their position is. And with my ebooks, what I do is with my books in general, I should say, with my authors, I make sure they go through a process of developing a call to action so that people go directly to a landing page that says this is what they can now get. Now, starting from the idea of the call to action, if you are using a ebook as a giveaway to the people to go to that call to action,
Mm.
why not use the ebook as a means of sending them to the call to action that might have another ebook or another lead magnet or another something? And we know that there are
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
points in a sales transaction. Over a period of time, you might see someone's advert, you might see them speak, you might read their book, have a conversation, have a couple of cups of coffee, and then you might eventually have a discovery meeting, or you might skip past some of those touch points. But essentially, there are many parts of the process that you go through to become a customer with someone. So why
Mm.
not create a shorter version of an ebook that works really well to send people to the landing page that is effectively the sales page, and then give them of your expertise. And that might be another ebook, or it might be in the form of resources or quizzes or things that will take them into the process of becoming more and more engaged with you. So what I started thinking about over the last few months is how easy it is to take maybe even the first 3 or 4 chapters of someone's book, turn that into a good solid 50-page ebook. Not just a quick 2-minute report or a 10-page or whatever, something that's really solid, that gives them a real sense of this is an edited, high-quality piece of information that is going to take them to the landing page, where they can then further engage in more product, more opportunities, more learning, more information, and then become a customer. So you're really doing the whole concept of how much great content can I give you without having to writing the entire book necessarily before you're ready to share some of this gold with your customers.
Yeah, look, you make some good points, and look, it really is an interesting thought pattern, because I think you've got to really look at the psychology of people and what they want. So one of the things that I've always said about lead magnets, not specifically ebooks in this case, but lead magnets, is they should be easy to consume. And this is really important, because I would ask anybody how many hundreds of ebooks do they have sitting on their desktop. So we've all downloaded books and thought they were a great idea, but have not consumed the content. So having something that's easy to consume and that we can do quickly and that will give us like the answer to the question. We wouldn't have arrived at that page if we were not after an answer. So I think there's a lot that goes into the psychology behind creating these lead magnets, even before we choose what we want. And, using kind of a step up like you're talking about there, where you've got, a small one leads to something a little bit more in depth, or book a call, or whatever it happens to be, is really, really important. Often people will put a lead magnet book on their website and that's it. They get their email address and then they might send out their monthly newsletter to them. So there's no follow-up sequence that goes with that. Like if someone downloads something, there should be a pre-programmed follow-up sequence of 6 to 7 emails that go out over a period of weeks that follow on one from another to another, that deal with basically all the objections someone's having and lead them to the point where they realize that they need you to help them. And there's so much more to it than just produce something and say, hey, this is free. This is about giving people something that they want, taking that and leading people down a path to take them to the help that they need that you provide.
It's absolutely right. And the biggest thing that I see most people struggling with is, if I'm going to write a book that is also going to be an ebook, at what point can I start getting leverage on it? I'll give you an example of something that we're doing at the moment for one of my authors, and that is a section of her book, which will be maybe 4 or 5 chapters. It'll probably be about 6,000 to 8,000 words in total, with a couple of really good chapters within the book. We'll turn that into a lead magnet that she can use in advance of the rest of the finished. That will be highly valued for a specific project that she's going to be pitching for. And she will be then using that to say, hey, this is what I am offering for this particular segment of the market. This is the high value. We know there's nothing else like this. Please take a look at this. And if you would look at a version of this that is then available for you to sell at your countertops, or as a free option to give away in your countertops, that's an easy thing to additionally offer that then leads people to the book. So you can use parts of a main book of a main magnet absolutely brilliantly in ways that you've never even thought about. But you have to think about the entire process as a process, as a matter of, as you say, offering up a sample chapter or saying, hey, I'll give you this if you want to put your name down on my landing page. Get creative. Get really full on, brilliant. You appear to be to the market that you're most wanting.
Yeah. And look, key thing from my perspective also comes back round to the audience and understanding the audience that you're trying to sell to. So for example, if you're selling to tradies, using an ebook may not be the best option. A short form video might be better still because they're busy. They may not be readers, that sort of thing. Whereas if you're selling to professors, you might want something that's like a paper. It's actually written at an extremely high level, targeting them. So you really do, as always, need to understand the audience you're targeting, and don't try and target everybody. Always go back and look at, okay, who buys from me? Who do I want to sell to? In your case, you're talking about someone who's writing something specific for an audience that she's trying to get to, and where that can be extrapolated on to other products or other options for them. And so again, being really specific about the audience before the creation is going to be super important to whether anybody even wants your lead magnet.
This is a really tiny point in this podcast for me to say. I have created a lead magnets page on my eBookspublishing.com website where I have a lead magnet book that tells you all about how to maximize your use of lead magnets.
We're talking about lead magnets. Who saw that?
I've got really passionate about this whole subject because I see how amazing it can be as a tool for speakers and authors.
Yes.
So I want to give you just a little tip here. I have 6 steps to make your lead magnet or ebook really hard for you to get results. And you just touched on the exact point that I wanted to make the most of. Get 100% clear on your purpose. You have to know who you're targeting and what your purpose is in terms of getting them to engage with you and use the lead magnet. You've got to develop powerful and compelling call to action. So don't just give them something and then hope that they take action. You've got to make it compelling. You've got to think through these things really well. In an ebook lead magnet, it needs to be perhaps around, I would say, 20 to 50 pages for it to be somewhat worthy of being an ebook. Share great stories and case studies in that. So that gives you room and space to do that. Create a brilliant landing page on your website that people are directed to go to. And then also standing designing. Make sure you're really delicious laughter when they're reading these lead magnets. They have really thought about their ability to maybe a short attention span or a long attention span. They want to see pages, pretty, interesting points that are really highlighted in the layout. Really go to town on your layout and your formatting and your designs. And that's 6 great steps to making sure that your lead magnet as an ebook is going to be hard for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think production comes into this in a big way. And I like to relate this back to when I was a school teacher, because you could give kids, a page of Word docs type stuff and it's all written and typed. Or you could give it with, pictures and boxes drawn on it to fill in and all that. And I mean, my business started selling books to teachers on how to teach computers. And so designing workbook manuals and things like that was something I did. And it made a big difference to have these little bits of extra stuff in there, like an icon that you repeat in certain areas every time there's an activity or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just taking that production time to lift it to the next level, to pay someone if you can't do it yourself, or to take more time and look at some examples and think about how can I make this better? The first one might be a bit rough, but every time you do one, maybe step it up, and bring it up to this really high quality. And I see this with some speakers. Their stuff is super good. They're getting a professional designer to do it, and you can tell straight away that it's been done by a professional designer. And so it's so worth it in the impact when people, even pick up a sheet when you're speaking or whatever. It's absolutely worth the time to do that stuff.
It sure is.
Yeah. Putting it on the website, sorry to cut you off there. So putting it on the website is one that's really interesting because a lot of people with their websites actually have real trouble putting pages on their websites. This is a common problem, as you know. I'm a webmaster for a lot of people. And they will often ring up and say, can you add an extra page for me? And then I'll put the details in. So, putting landing pages to capture things means putting, forms on pages and all sorts of hard stuff. One of the things I do advise people to do is there is plenty of tools, including AI tools, that create landing pages for you. And then all you need to do is get your webmaster to set up a subdomain to those. So it's like lp, .yourdomain.com, whatever. And then you can drive people to those pages. You can link to them from your own pages as well, but they're much easier to manage from the case of building landing pages and capture forms. So, ClickFunnels, for example, is just one example. I use Sustain, and there's lots of others. So just be aware if you need to add these to your website and you don't have the technical capability to do it, you can use other platforms and integrate them in under a subdomain and make them look really amazing and super clean, which is what a lot of the other platforms give you compared to, say, your own website sometimes.
Yeah. Look, I think that you've touched on a really important point there. You do need to engage professionals, and you do need to have extra help sometimes in some parts of what you do with creating an ebook or a lead magnet or a funnel or a landing page. These are all parts of the same beast. They're all moving parts, and you do need to have really good quality thinking through what you want first, and then help to create it and to make it quality professional so that people do engage.
Yeah, I think people rush to production a lot of times. So looking at, obviously writing an ebook or writing a lead magnet of any type is often just the first step. You've then got, capturing of the leads. You've then got automations behind that, the follow-up emails, the upsells, the downsells, the cross-sells, the book an appointment, whatever it is that you're doing. All that needs to be ready before. And so many people are so quick to rush to market. And then people download it and they just, put a link up and they get the ebook and they think that's going to sell. And it's like, well, no, the ebook's really just to get people's email addresses in a lot of cases. The email does the selling. It's the 7 or 8 touch points afterwards. So there's also this whole other side to that has to be set up properly before you go, because you don't want to miss one opportunity, because just because you wrote a great, lead magnet doesn't mean you're going to get 1 million people download it. You might only get 10 people out of all the people connected to on social media who get it. And you would love it if all 10 of them went through your system and then came and, hired you to do whatever it is you do. So, getting those email sequences, those landing pages, those follow-up contents all right is really important, isn't it?
It really is. And I'm often surprised how so many people in our industry have no real idea of how vast the machine actually ends up being.
Oh, it's huge.
And I think this is a really good point where someone who can actually guide you through, or a mentor, or really educating yourself around what's available to you, what's involved, and who's available to you to do good quality work is really important. And tapping into what other people that you have already seen are doing well can do and who they can recommend is also a big part of this. Again, you don't want to leave a lot of things to chance, but you also don't want to leave a lot of money sitting on the table that you've invested that often goes nowhere because you've misspent it, or you've misunderstood, or you think you've figured it out, but you really have only kind of cornered 5% of the process.
I don't know how many people I've seen spend thousands of dollars on lead magnets and then never drive any traffic to them. But one of the first things when I'm evaluating someone's business to work with them and coach them is I look at all those things. And it's so often I find, oh, well, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this lead magnet. And then I go and look and I go, well, there's nowhere to capture anybody. That page is all out of date and it's old. So many things where they've kind of half done it, or they did it years ago and it's not working for them anymore. And it could be working for them if they just went through and reviewed what they had done originally. Like they probably have set up that email automation, but do you think they've actually read those emails themselves in the last 5 years? Probably not.
Yeah.
They've probably got wrong links in them. They're pointing to pages that don't exist anymore. Everyone's guilty of having pages on their website like that link to nowhere. There's so many aspects to it. And I think that's where, as you said, working with a professional to even just review these things on what you've already got, and then work with someone who's building you a new one to put into your website is really powerful, because you want everything to be working for you. Everything should be driving people toward you or your products or services.
Absolutely. And you can use ebooks brilliantly, even short 50-page lead magnet versions of ebooks. And again, the whole book doesn't have to be necessarily more than 100 to 150 pages to be highly credible. But you can use ebooks as a brilliant way of ensuring that you're telling good stories, you're highlighting your expertise, stressing what are the biggest challenges of marketplace that you're serving, what are the frustrations, desires, fears of the marketplace that you're serving, and then how you have the ability to help them resolve that. A 40 to 50 page ebook gives you enough space to put content into that to fully engage with someone, as much as a full ebook or a full book can do. But you really want to make sure that you don't just throw them a quick one chapter sample or a 10-page thing that they can download. You want to really approach this more seriously if you're serious about maximizing your leverage, your content.
Absolutely. So have you got any success stories that you can tell regarding lead magnets or ebooks that you think, help grow someone's brand quite dramatically?
We're still working through some really cool ideas and versions of these at the moment. But I can tell you that there's a mutual friend of ours who is telling everybody how fantastic his lead magnet is. And he's getting some work from that. He's getting people engaging further with him. He's followed our process really well. And as a result of that, I've used his case study as part of my creating this lead magnets ebook. It's available on our lead magnets page on my website.
Which is Experts Journey? No.
IndieExpertsPublishing.com.
IndieExpertsPublishing.com.
That's /lead magnets.
That's nice and easy to remember, isn't it?
Nice and easy to remember. And you can get a free version of the lead magnets book that we've created there. It actually walks you through all the do's and don'ts. Things like, don't give away too much. This is the kind of stuff you should be giving away. These are the kind of checklists that you could be creating within your lead magnet. This is how to create a call to action and how to direct you to your landing page. This is what should be on your landing page. So there's 16 great points in there I think we've developed really well. So that is the basis of a great case study based on someone who is experiencing fantastic results with the lead magnet that we've created for him in exactly this way. So watch this space. There's more of those coming.
Yeah, excellent. I've seen them used very successfully across a whole range of businesses, from mechanics, you name it, because many years ago there was a company that specialized in just doing this for small business, and they put together a small lead magnet that you downloaded, and then they put it on the email list, and then the business would send out their monthly newsletter. And that was a very, very successful business. So I have seen it used across a huge range of industries, and I highly recommend what you're doing. I think it does work. I think done properly, it's exceptional to any business. So yeah, it's a great idea. Well, there we go. We actually got through a lead magnet journey. We've probably got about 4,000 other questions we could still answer, but I guess I'll just have to wait for another day.
Part two.
So if everybody enjoyed this, please, if you liked it, share, subscribe, and join us in the next episode. If you'd like Dixie's lead magnet book, the link will be in the podcast. But that is indieexpertspublishing.com/lead magnet. Is that right?
Magnets. Yes.
Lead magnets.
Yes.
So that address is indieexpertspublishing.com/lead magnets. Get your copy today, and you can start to apply this in your business as soon as possible. We'll catch you in the next episode. See you then.
Thanks, Brad.